Welcome to a live episode of Surviving the Survivor. We bring you the best guests in all of true crime. Don't forget to subscribe and smash that like button. Here's your host, Emmy Award-winning broadcaster, Joel Waldman.
What's up, STS Nation, and welcome to Surviving the Survivor, the podcast that promises to bring you 97 shows a day and the very best guests in true crime. This day started at 9 a.m. or so with the Courtney Clenny hearing. And by the way, I was looking it up and I cannot find anything on it. The Zoom that we had live was a black hole. We could hear things, but they had not called Courtney Clenny. There was no motions inside of the courtroom. If anyone knows what happened with Courtney Clenny today, please let us know in the chat. I can't tell you how much I'm looking forward to this because I love these two guys, Phil and Scott, even though one of them, and I'll let you guess who, is not here yet, likely buying. Look at this. One of them not here yet, but now he is. And look at him with that haircut. Look at that. Yeah, that's back to the not the Marines days, but very
it's close.
It's close, but it's very neatly groomed. And Scott Duffy, for the first time ever in STS history, ever with a hat on, and I love it. What's the logo on the hat? I don't want to be shallow, but I'm just curious. FBI.
Yep.
FBI. That is a very cool hat.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There it is. And is there a red hue in those glasses of yours, Scott Duffy?
There is, I think. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Look at that. Beautiful. So just so everyone knows, our day today started at 9. We covered the Courtney Clenny case, sort of. And then Julie Frew already noticing Phil has a sharp hair and beard cut tonight. Yes, he does. In Hawaii, as you know, he lets it grow. He looks like a Woodstock hippie, but here in Houston, he's got to be clean cut. Look at this. Phil was great on Nancy Grace. Were you just on Nancy Grace, Phil?
I was, yes. Yes.
And this is not just anyone. This is Black Widow from the Republic of Ireland. So just to recap, yesterday we started covering the Michelle Troconis case, and then we did a show on Rachel Morin, and Scott Duffy was on that. Scott, I have to say that was one of the most touching shows that I think that we have done, and I've shared it with everyone, and I'm really hoping that people share it, not because it's our show or that you were on it, but the Morin family is hurting, and the killer is still on the loose. Scott, what were your thoughts on that show last night and the importance?
Yeah, that was a pretty in-depth, very emotional show, and I hope it added just a little bit more to push the investigation forward and get people thinking, and just being aware this guy is no doubt is out there walking about, and it's takes a very alert person.
Yeah, COE, as a matter of fact, if it's possible, because I'm pushing my luck today, but if you can load in the Faye McMahon, the young woman she is Rachel Morin's daughter. I would love for Phil to see this too. And I'm going to ask Phil a question. And for the first time, I think I've gone to Scott before Phil. How dare I? I'm not giving Phil enough talking time.
Well, you've been giving Scott. I mean, he's been the exclusive guy on this Morin case. So
yeah. By the way, Phil, how is your knee?
I just went to the doctor this morning and for the check, and I'm 5 weeks out from the surgery, and I'm apparently ahead of where most people are at this point. So.
And are you, when I say, are you walking around fine? I assume you're limping, but you can get from
I'm not. No, I'm kind of past the limping thing right now. It's about getting the flexibility back. So, but that's coming along as well. So, yeah, things are good. Things are good.
Good for you. Are you going to get the other one replaced?
I sure hope not.
Okay, good. For those,
it's been hanging in there. So, I hope not.
For those who are new, Fridays are a wacky day, and I'm delirious because we've been doing nonstop, like 20 hours of content over the last 2 days. And by the way, we are going to launch a new channel, Best Trials, STS Best Trials. We're going to be covering trials, and so the COE or someone will put up a graphic related to that. But Phil Waters, there was an interest. So we did this Rachel Morin show. You know the story. She was, and I didn't even plan to talk about this, but she was basically bludgeoned to death on a hiking trail in back in August. So it's been 5+ months. They get DNA from the scene. They match it to a crime scene in, and by the way, hello to Catherine Regier. This is Rachel Morin.
California. Yeah.
So they match it to a home invasion and a sexual assault of a young girl in Los Angeles. And so Scott Duffy has been helping the family. And then there's Tim Papa from the FBI, and also Doug McGregor, who's one cool dude. And he's from Ottawa, Canada. And he does what's known as geoprofiling, Phil Waters. But Tim Papa, he was part of the BAU at the FBI. I know you like to poke fun. What do you say the FBI stands for, Phil?
Well, there are a variety of things, and no disrespect to my colleague here, but
what's one of them? What one of the acronyms stands for?
Famous but incompetent. Fan belt inspectors. Fat-bellied Indians, and I wasn't going to say anything, but since you brought this up, I think it's interesting that the cap that Scott is wearing, I guess it says FBI on it. Is that correct?
Yes.
And but whoever designed that cap couldn't quite get the seal centered on the cap. So that just an observation. But I have a great deal of respect for my brothers in the FBI that I worked with in Houston, of course, that were, we're talking about the guys that are out there in the trenches, and they're all quite capable, and we got great support from them. And so you'll not hear me say a bad word about the FBI agents.
Except that they're incompetent.
We could go on about that all day long, but no, it's we poked fun at each other. That was just kind of the thing you do, right? So
yeah, 100%. Look at this, Christina Jones. Scott is looking especially handsome today. And then we go to hello everyone from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Obrigado. I'm keeping a running list today of the different exotic places. So like Blackwood Door is from the Republic of Ireland. She's here. So Phil Waters, by the way, would I be pushing my luck? Is there any way I would love this to get a Houston PD hat? I know I'm not asking for a Ferrari. I'm asking for a Houston PD hat with a centered logo,
cap, like a baseball cap.
Yeah. Do you have strings to pull there?
I can probably arrange that.
All right. Yeah, that'd be great. So Phil, one of the things, Tim Papa, who was with the Behavioral Analysis Unit, he has pioneered at the FBI using short video clips. So what he did was he interviewed Rachel Morin's oldest child and asked her about the mother. And it's this heartbreaking video. We don't have it right now. I wish I had it, but we played this last night. And he's using this because people then share it, and then it helps get the word out, which then potentially helps catch a perpetrator. What do you think of this idea?
How old is the girl?
18 now. Oh, here it is, Phil. Here it is. Look at this. Let's watch this together. This is Rachel Morin's oldest child, 18 years old.
Okay.
We aired this last night. I had no plans to do this, but let's watch this. Before we do that, let me just show you this comment. Watched Phil on ID, the interrogator, must see. Here we go.
Thank you.
Here's Faye.
Can you tell us a little bit about where we are right now?
This is where my mom's house used to be. That's now gone. I just think about going upstairs in my mom's room and laying down with her.
How old are you when you go up and lay down with her?
All the time. I always wanted to.
What's a sweet memory?
I feel like the person who did this took a lot of experiences away from us. We talked about doing a lot of things together, and she's never going to be able to be at my wedding. I'm never going to be able to go to hers. Like, she's never going to be able to meet my kids. And I just feel like we had a lot of plans that we just never get to do anymore because he just took them away one day. And there's just a lot of things that we talked about that we should have been able to do together that is just gone. And
Curious to get Phil Waters' reaction on that. See, if you listen, Phil, there's obviously music underneath, and at the very end, he pans over, and all this is deliberate to show kind of empty space. It is to, and here's I'm not T-Pain. Anyone with information, you see the numbers 410-836-7788. They're trying to catch the killer. What do you think of this, Phil Waters? You're what I would call an old school cop. A detective from a different generation, Phil. No, I'm not trying to poke fun at you for being old or anything, but what do you think of this method of sharing these types of videos on social media, which is the new medium, to try to gain and garner attention for victims and their families?
Well, I have some kind of mixed feelings about these types of things in general. I certainly, my heart goes out to her, prayers for her. And I don't know. I don't know that, I guess what they're trying to do is, as you said, is keep this thing kind of alive, keep people aware. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know that gets achieved. And I just, I don't know. Who is the one that initiated this thing in the first place? The family or this FBI guy?
Well, let me tell you, your friend up above your left shoulder there, Scott Duffy, and this is why I love law enforcement. This guy, Doug McGregor, who's not officially law enforcement, but he's developed a way of profiling people geographically, and Tim Papa, former FBI, they've all extended a hand to the family. The family is basically in a desperate situation to try to find the killer. And Tim Papa was a videographer at the BAU at the FBI and developed this. He kind of pioneered this idea. But Scott, you want to jump in and kind of fill in the gaps for Phil there? I honestly didn't even mean to go here, but a lot of people are saying they thought about, right here, Gen S, very emotional work. And I've been thinking about Faye. I kind of had a feeling Phil was going to have not a hard time, but he would be conflicted a little bit. So, but Scott, what are you guys all doing kind of combined to help the Morin family?
Yeah. Yeah. Phil is right. It's brand new. It is a very modern addition, if you would, to the cold case investigations, and there are many different arenas, but Tim Papa is the kind of the guru the pioneer when he was at the FBI, and so it's new, and I think it will hit a whole different type of audience that may not have otherwise connected to a cold case, in this case, a murder case. But with regards to, I think, through the show, and of course the Mourn family being, very raw feelings, and it's a very difficult thing to try to offer what you can, but at the same time not to interfere with what obviously is a very active investigation. And so somehow, through this show, but also because of how the case has been getting national attention, people like Tim Papa and Doug, I think we somehow had some sort of some sort of interconnection to say, hey, is there something more that could be done than just talking about it? So I applaud Tim and Doug on what they've done, and they've really traveled quite a distance, especially Doug, to meet with the family. And they're the family, reached out to me to see, hey, is this something that they should even pursue? And just a few minutes talking to Tim, you can just tell he has an absolute desire to help with no self gain, and that's a big thing. And so that's why it's something that's a tool, and the family thought about it, and then of course trusted him with the camera. So in that regard, Tim tries to allow the victims or whoever wants to go on camera in these very short videos to speak to the crime, or to speak of nothing that has to do with the crime, and kind of show the humanness of what it's like to be left behind, and hopefully incite somebody who may have a piece of information but otherwise wouldn't consider calling to call or whatever, to try to capture this guy. Ultimately, it is to capture this killer and to get this killer off the street behind bars, so that Rachel's family can now begin down this road of justice, and that's pretty much the why I think all this came together.
Phil Waters, by the way, I am not T-Pain, says panties may or may not get in a wad by things Phil Waters says. Carol Lynn says, I love this group. Ms. Trial, love these two. Perfect way to end the work week. Me and who else do you love? Oh, wait, it's Phil and Scott that you love. Okay. Phil, any retort to what Scott just said? And then we'll move on. It's going to be a fun day Friday fun day, whatever the hell they say. But Phil, your response.
Well, my question was, who initiated it?
The initiated, like the connection?
Yeah, whose idea was it to even consider doing something like this? The family, or prompted by you and these other folks?
Yeah, I think let me put it this way, and if this answers the question, I think Tim reached out to them saying, I've done this in BAU as an FBI agent, and I've now moved on to BAU, and still want to develop what he believes is a successful going after social media, and so he reached out to them and made his services available pro bono, and let them, hey, it's for you to take or to leave, no hard feelings. And I think after a few minutes they thought about it, and this is the third, I believe it's the third video in a series for this case, and so that's
him?
what
By him?
yeah, by him, for the family.
Okay. Well, so I guess again, I don't know enough really. I get what he's trying to do, and I guess the only way I would kind of go either way with this thing is what have the results been? And because just putting these videos out here to pull on people's heartstrings, to me, I guess it's nice. And I'm not trying to be harsh here or unfeeling here, but I guess it's nice to help these folks out and let them express themselves, and in a way that it can be put out there. But I mean, if there's no results from it, it just becomes a feel good thing. And you know, I guess what I'm trying to compare this to is, I think that it would have more of an effect to have the same type of video, but have the people that can respond to whatever clues come in being present to show their support for this family, and that they are not keeping this thing pushed off the table, that it is in the forefront, and having the officials that are investigating this thing represented as well, and making the final commentary of, you've heard from the family, you've heard from her daughter, and now we are appealing to the public to give us some information and provide phone numbers and contacts for that type of stuff. You know, like it's kind of like a Crime Stoppers, on steroids kind of a thing.
And I think that's to your point. I think that's exactly as Tim is brand new into. So this is what he did in the last couple of years in the FBI, where all he did was go on behalf of law enforcement saying, hey, it's not going to hurt. Please come on in and help us out, create what videos. They were BAU FBI videos. And so now that he's moved on, he realizes, hey, it seemed to have an effect. It seemed to have getting some traction. And so thereby he's continuing on, but realizing because of the disconnect, just like the disconnect of being out of law enforcement, if he still offers his services to any law enforcement agency, but now he also offers those same services to the families, and then tries to make a connection, and then through his website draws any attention to tip lines and whatnot.
No, I get the good intentions, and I get what he's trying to accomplish. But my question is, being a homicide detective, my question is, what are the results? Are we getting anything out of this in terms of the investigation, or is this just a feel-good measure?
Yeah.
And I mean, if that's what it is, that's fine. I'm not being critical of that. I'm just saying that are we netting a result? And he can keep putting those out and all that, but if all we're gathering is more sympathy and we're not getting any more clues, then again, and I'm looking at this from a homicide detective's perspective about trying to find the right person who's done the wrong thing. So I'm not trying to be heartless about this and cold. I'm looking at this through the eyes of a homicide detective, and are we benefiting from doing something like this? I mean, it's great that they're doing it. I'm not being critical of it. I'm just looking at it from that perspective.
Scott, is it fair to say that this is also a very early, that he pioneered it, Tim Papa, but it's also very early on in its development. So, I don't know how many times he's tried this, right? So we've shared this, at least the show. I haven't shared the actual videos because it's Tim has them, but I'd like to see how it does. If some of these could potentially go viral. By the way, you'll occasionally hear Scott Duffy say alls, and I'm wondering if Philadelphia shoulder surgeon also says that. That's a Philly thing. It's also a South Jersey thing. She says, I don't see any downside. If it inspires someone to call the authorities with info, great. If it doesn't, at least it keeps the case in the media community's minds. Do you agree with that, Phil Waters?
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm not trying to criticize here. Look, I'm just telling you what I'm looking at this thing through the eyes of.
Yeah.
And you know, everybody out there that's going to get, you know, all their panties in a wad because, oh, Phil, and all that stuff, they're missing my point, and that's fine. You know, I'm not responding from an emotional level in the sense that I'm looking at it as, how does this benefit the investigation? And I think the thing that and since we're talking about this particular case, I am surprised at how quickly this case, with all that stuff with the video in California and the DNA connection, and we've got this guy, and here, this is who this person is. All of a sudden, there's just nothing. I mean, I haven't seen anything about somebody reported something, and maybe that's going to the officials that are working the case, and it's not being put out there for some reason. But in terms of finding this guy, it's really, I mean, unless you guys have seen something, I mean, you've been doing these special little sessions, you know, with Scott up there in that area, but since it had such a across the country connection, ever since that happened, it's like, haven't heard a thing. No updates. No, I haven't seen anybody from any agency popping up and saying, here's what we have found. Here's where we are. We've tracked him to this point, blah, blah, blah. We're appealing to the public to give us some information. So that's been kind of a question in my mind about the overall investigation and the lack of publicity in the weeks after. So I don't know, Scott, you might be able to address that.
Real quick, it looks like we've gotten so big that our bot is now commenting in what appears to be, is that Russian? I have no idea. Is that Greek? That's some sort of Cyrillic language.
I thought you were going to interpret it for us.
Maybe they're just coding a new YouTube. Maybe AI has taken over the world. Scott,
Ukrainian.
I didn't mean to drop. Respond to Phil, and then we'll move on, and we'll have some fun on this Friday with horrible cases.
Go ahead. So as far as I know, Phil, I agree. Being in this area, I do not see it on our local news. I do not see it in any. So other than what I think went out initially, there is nothing new, at least for public consumption. There are no new videos out there. There are no sightings. You know, so it's a matter of. Some of the things that I've just tried to advise the families that sometimes it is very tough just to not have new information, even though the police, are working on things, that it's just not something that, and each and every day that goes by is one day too long for them. There's going to be nothing shy of an arrest that's going to move this in a better direction for them. But this is just the social media aspect is just another way of keeping it alive, and that's really what it is.
And we are we're Scott and Tim Papa, and again Doug McGregor, the geo profiler. Shout out to them for going above and beyond to help the family. Time for change. I don't really understand this really of topic, but your morning stream talked about the COE should be your co-host. Can you do a pool? I guess pool us together. But yes, the bottom line is I am trying to get the COE to be my co-host. And we can host on and off, but when we're doing the trials, let's put her to work. Let's have her hosting, so I don't have to sit here and break my back. No, she's very talented. She was a network news correspondent. She was at CBS, and she is going to step in. When exactly, we don't know. Analytical Blarney AB. By the way, that new channel, please subscribe. The mods will tell you where to do that. Phil is trying to be delicate. He's just being sincere to who he and his specific lens is, I guess. He's really trying on this one. Good job, Phil. There you go. And then Phil, look at this one. Susie H. If you have time, ask Phil if he remembers the Houston case circa 1979 to 80 Woman decapitated in Chimney Rock apartment, never solved. Does that ring a bell? That is like just before your undercover narcotics days, I think.
Yeah, it does vaguely, but I wasn't in Houston until 1982. And I think that I may have heard about this case. There were some cases, of course, that were in homicide that were kind of those ones that everybody kind of knew about. And that one I think is one of those, but I wasn't in Houston when that occurred.
There you go. So moving on, I'm writing down all the exotic places like Indiana, so I can read them off at the end of the show. By the way, very important question to both of you. Scott Duffy, let me go to you so I can't be accused of favoring Phil. It could be the coldest game in NFL history. The Dolphins here in Miami are traveling up to Kansas City to play the Chiefs. Minus 30 or colder with the wind chill. Are you going to be watching the game, Scott Duffy?
Oh, yeah. I'm definitely going to be watching the game from probably a 72-degree, very balmy living room.
Yeah, under a comforter. And I'm going to be doing the same. You're getting hit with a storm, though, aren't you, this coming weekend, Scott?
Yeah, I guess they're calling for a storm. It's Monday night, should be
nothing Scott
somewhere.
can't handle. Nothing Scott can't handle. Phil, my question to you about that football game. If you were gifted 2 free tickets to Arrowhead Stadium, would you go and sit there and watch this game in person for 3 hours and minus 30 below?
Sure.
You would.
Why not? 2 free tickets to a friggin' playoff game in the NFL? Yeah. Although I don't particularly care for the NFL anymore since a few years ago, but I still love my Dallas Cowboys, and
wow,
they're playing the Packers in a nice, comfortable stadium. So
Brooke Nellis, go Cowboys. Look at that. You know what my dad would say to me? May he rest in peace. If I said we have 2 free tickets to go sit in minus 30 degrees, he'd say, get lost. He used to take me to Giant Stadium. And then one day he said, that's it. Never going to another game. I'm never sitting. It's so much better on TV. But Phil, what would you wear? I'm curious. I don't mean designers, but like, would you have thermal underwear on? When I was in Canada, I got myself a hat that had like ear flaps that I was rocking in Montreal. What would you be wearing in minus 30-degree weather?
Oh, I would go prepared with cold weather gear, and I would probably some mucklucks, get some stuff on my feet that's going to keep my toes nice and warm. And in fact, I remember a time when I was camping out in cold weather conditions in Oklahoma. The big thing there were heated socks that ran on little 9-volt batteries. So I'm sure there's something more modern now that you could probably plug into an app on your phone. But I would prepare for that and be nice and warm and drink the hot cocoa and all that good stuff. So yeah.
Look at that. Our chat just now, it moved, but it was at 1666. So be careful out there. Cleveland Browns fans, look at this. Space Coast. Did you make a poll about if you would sit in the stadium or if you're going to watch the game? I'm curious. Let us know. But what other true crime show is going to take a poll about sitting in minus 30-degree weather besides ours? Too cold and dangerous for fans to be in a stadium. And you're going to see Phil Waters. You're going to see those guys with their shirts off, right?
You're asking me?
Yeah.
I'm sure those idiots will be there. Yeah, they're always there. Yeah, sure. They'll freeze their little nipples right off their chests. So yeah, what a bunch of goober heads, knuckleheads.
I am not T-Pain. Please, we need memes for that. The queen of memes is here. I don't even know exactly what he said, but they'll freeze their nipples off. They are goober heads, something along those lines. Please get a meme out immediately.
We need three guys who are going to go to that game, and they're going to paint on their chest FIL. All right.
That would be funny.
That would be amazing. If I had the money to do this, I would buy those tickets and the three of us would go topless with FIL written. We would definitely get on TV because no one would know. They would think we spelled Philadelphia wrong or something. I don't know. Look at this from Nurse Corky. God, we didn't go off the rails early this show. It took a while. Our high today in Montana was minus 18. Our low was minus 25 with a wind chill of minus 50. You should take the dog for a walk right now. Prime time to take the dog for. By the way, again, I'm honestly not saying this. Maybe I am. It was a little hot, and I went to Starbucks earlier, and it was like it's 85 and a little humid, which is weird because it's usually a little chilly here when it's so cold everywhere else. But it was a beach day today. I just was doing this all day. Space Coast, good work about the poll. So, Phil and Scott, we covered this trial, just began yesterday. What was so weird about this trial, Phil and Scott, there were no opening statements. This is taking place in Stamford, Connecticut. Let me just quickly set the stage for those who do not know. There was a couple, Jennifer Farber Dulos, and I think there's photos here, and Fotis Dulos. He's originally from Turkey, and he meets and marries this woman, a Jewish woman from the New York area, Jennifer Farber Dulos. They have 5 children, sort of like the Adelson and Dan Markel story. The marriage goes south. They're in a bitter custody battle. Here's the photo. There's Jennifer Dulos and her 5 children. They get into a horrific custody battle over the kids. Fotis Dulos has a new girlfriend, a live-in girlfriend named Michelle Troconis. She is on trial because they alleged that she helped conspire to kill her, helped get rid of evidence. Phil Waters, the body has never been found. It happened in 2019. The ex-husband committed suit. He unalived himself, as you would say, in his garage, connecting a hose to his tailpipe. He's no longer with us. And a weird twist, a guy named Kent Mawhinney, who is a former friend of Fotis Dulos and an attorney. He's also a co-defendant in this. He apparently was helping create an alibi, so he's going to probably be testifying. This is the defendant right here. And long story short, a judge declares Jennifer Farber Dulos, may she rest in peace, declares her dead just this past October. Just this past October, a jury of 6 with 6 alternates is picked. And here we are at this trial today. What's interesting about this, Phil and Scott, but I guess more so for Phil on this one, is we have an interrogation. This is one with captions. We're going to play it right now. This is after the fact. The police interviewed Michelle Troconis. This is one of the interviews. We're going to watch it, and there's no one better in the world than Phil Waters at police interviews. He has one of the highest clearance rates, highest, what is the word? What's the word, Phil? Confessions. That's the word I'm looking for. It's been a long day. Here's the video. The video is 6 minutes long. Phil, tell us what you are seeing here. We'll play it through the whole time, and then we can play bits and pieces afterwards. First time we're playing a police interview for the police interviewer. Here we go.
What do you know about what happened to Jennifer Dulos on the 24th of May and where her body is? We have enough information right now for Fotis for murder.
Okay.
Right now you are not arrested for murder, he's not arrested for murder. You both are arrested for tampering with evidence, yes, and hindering prosecution.
Yes.
In all likelihood, he will be arrested for murder. You need to tell us what you know. This is coming from the state's attorney. Just listen. You need to tell us what you know about Jennifer's murder and Fotis Dulos. We know that you weren't there at the murder scene at the time. We know you have information, and we need to know that. Do you understand what I'm saying? I don't want to be over dramatic. I don't want to, and this is not listening. This is not any kind of threat. I just want you to understand. You have a daughter who's 12 years old. You have a mother. How old is your mom?
60.
Okay. All right. You want to see them, right? You don't want to go to prison. You don't want to get arrested for murder. Okay.
Can I just chime in real quick? Michelle, I'm
Absolutely.
sure you got released from court, right? You bonded out. And have you looked at the news at all? Have you seen your face plastered? I mean, I'll be honest with you, you're probably one of the most hated women in America right now. And I'm not being mean.
I know.
So
That's how they're portrayed.
this is like the golden ticket. If you know where he could have done something and could have, where he frequents, if you could tip us off, maybe he said something in jest, something in passing that you can say, you know what, that rings a bell. Maybe.
Your old daughter, listen, would you ever leave and go hide and not tell your 12-year-old daughter where you are? Why not?
Because I'm a healthy person. I won't do that.
Okay. Because she would be very upset, right?
It's something that doesn't even cross my mind doing that.
It wouldn't even occur to you to do that.
No.
Because Jennifer has 5 children
Yes.
and other family members. Do you think, why would she go hide and not tell them for a period of time where she is and she's safe?
Can I talk about the report?
No.
Well,
No,
that's what
listen,
I
wait a minute.
did.
The question was.
My question is,
The
my
question
only
was-
answer that I can give is because for my understanding, she has a borderline personality disorder.
But you got that information from
Fotis.
Fotis.
And this is a man who killed his wife. So
From Fotis.
She thought he was going to
Well,
kill her.
okay,
Right.
yes, I got it.
and it happened.
Our impression of Fotis.
Yes, I got
Listen
it
to
from
me,
Fotis
Jennifer.
that there's a.
Listen to
my
me,
name is
Jennifer.
Michelle. John.
Michelle. I'm sorry.
I know, but you keep calling me Jennifer. It's like,
Well, I'll be honest with you, Jennifer's on my mind.
I know.
Okay, because I worry every day and every night about Jennifer. So I apologize for calling you the name of the person who's been missing now for going on 2 weeks. So Michelle, here's the thing. We're here to find out where she is. Okay, we don't think that you're not the one that orchestrated this. Our impression of Fotis is that he is a manipulative, controlling person.
And that's
That
everybody.
wanted to get rid, right, based on the information.
It's
So
everybody's impression.
Everybody
we
is.
think he wanted to get rid of his
Sorry,
wife,
I know that.
and he did that. And we're looking to find her for her family's sake.
Killed the mother of his 5 children.
And we want help from you.
I mean, if
Who's to say he couldn't have done it to you?
if he can kill the mother of his 5
He
children,
could have killed me, I know.
somebody who appears to have been wanting to get back with that mom, according to his phone,
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't get it.
said here he kills the mother of his 5 children,
Uh-huh.
and according to his, from what we hear from other people and his phone,
Phone.
he appeared to have been wanting to get back with
Mm-hmm.
Jared.
that woman.
Who wanted to get back to her?
The photos went
Fotis,
back
the
to
love of
Jennifer.
your life.
He
the man-
said that?
Yeah, the man you sleep with every night.
Text message to her.
Yep. So you think for 1 second.
So imagine what he would do to you.
So
He
he,
was
Here's
trying to
the
set
woman.
you
He
up.
left his first wife for her.
Okay.
Was married to her for a long time, had 5 children, 2 sets of twins.
we don't
I
think,
know them very
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
I know you do. I know you do. Your daughter knows them well too, doesn't she?
Yes.
She had the family that she always wanted with those kids.
Well, not the family that she always wanted because I believe she has a nice family and she's happy.
No, what I mean is other children. She trust me. Yes, she has
She
a
has
lovely
her
family with
cousins.
you,
Okay.
her father, your mom, absolutely
But
cousins.
she's saying we have the text messages from Fotis to Jennifer from going back to March. We have them.
But when March, for
We
what
have
he
his
told
phone. We
me-
have everything.
I know, but for what he
Michelle,
Michelle, when he told you.
Fotis,
It's a lie.
let me tell you something
Okay,
about
I
Fotis.
didn't know.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's
Michelle,
okay.
Michelle, we're not trying to tell you. We want to tell you something that everyone in this room is probably going to agree with. Fotis lies to everyone. And the reason he lies to everyone is he cares about one person in the world, and that's himself. He didn't care about his first wife, he didn't care about his second wife, he doesn't care about you. He says all kinds of things to all kinds of people to get what he wants. Okay? He manipulates, he controls. We have no doubt he did that to you. He lies to you.
He didn't
So
know.
I know you didn't know. I'm trying to explain it to you. So he owes you. He feels he owes you nothing. If he could put this murder on you, He would do it in
Absolutely.
a second. Okay? We don't think that is true. And we want what is fair. Yeah, we know stuff. The attorney's going to get you something next.
Stop. No more talking.
Well, that was odd. I didn't see the end of that. The lawyer walks out. Phil Waters, the floor is yours. Shaking his
Scott,
head.
you know what I'm going to say here, right?
Well, I was watching Phil when
I was watching Phil.
I was watching
more
Phil
than I was
too.
watching the video.
But when the bald detective said that you're the most hated woman in America, Phil, he shook his head. But Phil, the floor is yours. And if we need to play a section, let us know.
Well, let me put it this way. I would never have conducted an interview in that fashion.
Mm.
The setup was not what I would have done.
Mm.
And I dadgum sure wouldn't have had 4 detectives sitting in the room. And I guess this bearded man next to her is her attorney.
Yes.
And this is it appears that it was a non-custodial interview, so she was not under arrest. She wasn't in custody. She could leave any time. And this is obviously an edited clip. We saw the jumps in there. In terms of her, it's hard to tell what's going on completely because they're in a horrible setup. Putting a table up where you cannot see what's going on below the waist there, that's giving the interviewers less information about the person they're interviewing in terms of body language. The one thing that I did notice about her was that she did at least 3 ass wipes in the middle of this thing.
Mm.
Then we have the snotless crying going on. Then we got the stuff wiping this off of her face and that kind of thing. And then they're putting her head on the table and this acting job, this emoting stuff based on the stuff that they're saying. And I didn't hear a whole lot of questions. It was more like just a bunch of statements. And then when this chrome dome on the end down there says, you're the most hated woman in America, I'm like, what? Where does that come from? And what was he what did he think he was going to get from making a statement like that? So he's none of them in there. I mean, a couple of them maybe, but they're showing no empathy to this woman. She's got information they want. And regardless of whether the attorney is there or not, I can tell you that there's a certain way, at least, Scott, you may do this as well. But when I instruct in interviewing, number one, everything in that room has a purpose. The way it is set up and the way it's going to be conducted. Who's going to be in the room? Are you going to do a 1-man interview? Are you going to do a 2-man interview? If you're going to do a 2-man interview, then there is a way to do that interview without one interfering with the other. And so I was amazed at, and are these local detectives? I thought I heard somebody say something about the state attorney general's office or something. So who are all these law enforcement people? There's a woman on the end, and then there's these 3 other guys. And are they representing different factions of law enforcement? I could be critical and that kind of thing and really get into some specifics here. I'm just going to say I wouldn't have conducted an interview this way. And it doesn't appear to me, I guess the attorney gets up and he's going to shut it down right there at the end.
What's interesting is he's the one that walked out and he left her there, which is so bizarre. What a lot of people have told me, and I haven't been able to confirm this, is Fotis Dulos was in real estate development. That apparently is a real estate attorney. I had a defense attorney on from New York, and she's very smart, Jonna Spilbor. She said, what attorney would ever let their client just sit there if it's non-custodial? Like she's just sitting, he's not a criminal defense attorney. That's apparently the case. Yes, he's
not a criminal defense attorney.
Correct.
He's a real estate attorney.
That's what I'm hearing. Yeah.
Well, regardless, I can tell you that I've done non-custodial interviews with attorneys present. So that's not an unknown. I mean, that's not something. It doesn't happen all the time, but I've done it. In fact, I've taken sworn statements, written statements from people while their attorney sat there in a non-custodial setting. So that particular thing is not unusual. I'm just saying that if you're going to have an attorney present, first of all, there's a way to set the room up for the interview, period. And that table needs to go. That's the first thing that needs to go. And so when I set up a room, the table in the room is there for a purpose, and it is in the corner. It's typical. It's going to be a longer, kind of a long, narrow table, and it's there for me. So I can come in and I can set a file on, or if I'm going to pull out my backup recorder, I can set that there. But it's for me. If I want to write something down, I separate the subject of the interview about 14 inches or so from the end of that table with their back against the wall in a chair that has no wheels on it. That's where they're going to sit. Now, I'm going to have a chair that's got wheels on it because I want to be mobile. I want to be able to move in closely if I need to do that or want to do that or pull back. But I'm giving myself the mobility, and I don't want anything between me and the person I'm interviewing. I want that to be completely open. I want to make that complete connection there and have that establish that relationship with them. So, and if you don't set it up from the beginning in a manner in which that you're expecting a positive outcome, then you're just pissing up a rope. And these guys, I mean, again, everybody does it differently. They got their ways to doing it, but putting at least four, I mean, I don't know if there's anybody on the other side of that woman, but at least 4 detectives in this room, and there was no rhyme or reason. Nobody was in control of that interview. In fact, if anybody was in control of it, it was her, because she was just responding when she wanted to. She might answer if they let her answer a question, because they're all talking. And again, we're getting an edited version of this thing, so I don't know but I did notice that some of her responses, like I said, the 3 ass wipes and that kind of thing, looks like there's something going on below the table, shuffling feet, taking shoes on and off. I mean, whatever it is, but you're
Phil, not to interrupt, but I am analytical Blarney right here. Phil, I have questions about the A wipes here. What does that mean? What is your take on that? What are you watching? What does that tell you?
Well, so I'll demonstrate, right? And kids do this all the time. When you're in the course in her deal, when you're looking at what they were saying to her, at one point, actually 3 points in time, you will see her do this. So she readjusts herself in that chair. We call it in the business an ass wipe. So she's down there wiping her rear end on that table, trying to readjust herself. And she did it 3 times that I saw in the video. So, and these are all in, you take all of these different body language markers, and one in isolation doesn't mean something deceptive in a necessary way, but you get a combination of these things, and there's going to be some sort of deception involved when you start seeing combinations of these variety of, if you see, I couldn't get close enough to see if she was tooth sucking, if she was licking her lips, those kinds of things. So these body language things are all in concert. And then, of course, you've got to listen to what they are saying in response to your questions or your statements and how they're saying them. In this particular interview, at least the snippet that we saw, she's not really saying much of anything because she's not being allowed to say anything. And then when she does say something, it's just, and then she does the snotless crying thing and, head on the table and, oh my gosh, they're getting nowhere with her. I mean, I don't know how long that interview lasted. And
well, there were multiple interviews, I think close to a half dozen, definitely over 3 or 4. And she started to really change her story a lot. The first story was that she and Fotis had sex in the morning and then went and did this. And by the time the 4th or 5th interview came around, it was a completely different story. I have to agree with Jennifer Sube here. Phil is awesome, smart, hysterical, and very intimidating. I want Scott Duffy to weigh in here. I'm going to put this back up. Let's just go through the you're the most hated woman in America, Scott. We'll pick it up a little later in. And then we'll have Scott weigh in.
Do we know which interview this was? First, second, third?
I think this was one of the later interviews, not the initial interviews, but I have to double check that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bad setup. They need to be in an interview room with the setup that I talked about.
Yeah. And someone who's a friend of the show, who I'm forgetting already, said she's been watching true crime 20 years, has never seen this many people. And don't forget, there's someone in that bottom corner as well. This attorney, whoever he is, I don't get it. But let's just watch from here. I think this is just, I'll take it back a little bit. Here we go. We'll get through the most hated woman part.
Just listen. You need to tell us what you know about Jennifer's murder and Fotis Dulos. We know that you weren't there at the murder scene at the time. We know you have information, and we need to know that. Do you understand what I'm saying? I don't want to be over dramatic. I don't want to. This is not listening. This is not any kind of threat. I just want you to understand. You have a daughter who's 12 years old. You have a mother. How old is your mom?
60.
Okay.
That was the first one.
You want to see them, right? You don't want to go to prison.
You can take it back a touch to see that.
At the time, we know you have information, and we need to know that. Do you understand what I'm saying? I don't want to be over dramatic. I don't want to. This is not listening. This is not any kind of threat. I just want you to understand.
Hands to the face.
You have a daughter.
Here comes the wife right there.
There's the ass wife.
How old is your mom?
60.
Okay. All right. You want to see them, right? You don't want to go to prison. You don't want to get arrested for murder. Okay.
Can I just chime in real quick? Michelle, I'm sure you got released from court, right? You bonded out. And have you looked at the news at all? Have you seen your face plastered? I mean, I'll be honest with you, you're probably one of the most hated women in America.
Hands to the face
I'm not being mean.
I know.
So
That's how they're.
this is like the golden ticket. If you know where he could have done something and could have, where he frequents, if you could tip.
I'm going to take it back a touch. That was the hated woman. Here we go.
I'm sure you got released from court, right? You bonded out. And have you looked at the news at all? Have you seen your face plastered? I mean, I'll be honest with you, you're probably one of the most hated women in America right now. And I'm not being mean.
I know.
So
That's how they're.
this is like the golden ticket. If you know where he could have done something and could have, where he frequents, if you could tip us off, maybe he said something in jest, something in passing that you can say, you know what, that rings a bell.
Scott Duffy, I'm not being mean, but you're one of the worst people I've ever met. What do you think of this? What do you think of this interrogation? We got Phil's take. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I mean, I take a little offense that you think I'm the worst person you ever met.
Well, he said she's the worst person in America, so I wanted to top America. Okay, sorry.
I was watching Phil during the whole time, and so thereby I think we shared the same disgust. This is absolutely a travesty, and I'm going to be a little guarded only because this, I never like to cast. Trying to choose the right word with regards to fellow law enforcement and how they conduct their investigations, especially their interviews. But this was this was something that I would probably use in my class on as a
How
at the
not
top
to
of the
do it.
what not to do. It's so yeah, absolutely. Phil is right. You know, uh I worked primarily with a partner, and so you would have two in the room. And and the idea is there's no plan here. It doesn't seem like anybody has I would have put muzzles on everybody. And the fact that people are talking over each other, and I could see just a few instances where she wants to say something, just wait here, just wait, this is what you're all here for. And so like Phil would ask, is this what is this interview in a series of what? There's zero rapport. There is what in my take seems to be, you don't look to be asking for anything or looking for anything, and everybody in that table seemed to want to over talk another one with the same point. And the fact that they said, where the one person said, "You're the most hated woman," as the lawyer, I would stand up, take my client out. As the subject of that interview, I would shut down, and it would be game over. So this seemed more like a circus, and I really would be interested to see, first of all, how long were they in that interview room that day that got to that point, and does it is this the end? Does it get better? And I'm a little confused because they do say that she was in custody and she bonded out. So I take it that this looks like some sort of makeshift proffer. Proffer is, you have the lawyer there, and there's supposed to be some agreement to tell the truth. There's it's probably not so much an interrogation, but this was I was cringing.
Frankie Figs correcting the record, saying Scott is the most loved person in America. Everyone knows I was saying that because the detective said that she was the most hated. So don't get mad at me, please. We are in a relatively new show, and we're evolving. And why I never thought to put up police interviews. By the way, Phil does not like the word interrogations. That's why I always say interviews. But why I've not thought to do this in the 9 million shows before, I don't know, but we will do this more often. I found this fascinating. Scott's face during the A-wipe was priceless. Twyla Olson says, Phil, I don't care if my legs are completely asleep. I'm never readjusting once I've sat down. Ned Smith says the vast majority of people in America, like 99.997, I would say, have no idea who Michelle Troconis is. I would have to agree with that. It's Friday, so let's just have fun. If you're new here, Phil is the interviewer. His expertise is setting up the room, talking, waiting, and earning trust to find the truth. This is a COE writing this. Phil looks intimidating, but he's also very compassionate and warm. We also have swag from CrimeCon. I don't know what we're waiting for to give it away, but we've got stuff signed by Phil and Scott, and we've got to give that stuff away because the next CrimeCon is always coming up. So rest of the way, some of these stories are sick and demented, but at least let's have fun. It's a Friday, not at anyone's expense, but just because it's a Friday and we deserve it. The first one I know is going to rile Phil up. I found this disturbing and embarrassing on several levels. A U.S. Army employee, Phil Waters, was indicted for allegedly stealing more than $100 million in Army funds. She was a civilian Army employee. She was then said to have made large personal purchases. This happened in your state, Phil, the Western District of Texas. 57-year-old Janet Yamanaka Mello. She worked as a civilian financial program manager at Fort Sam Houston. She now faces 10 counts related to a fraud scheme. How she did it. alleges that Mello regularly paperwork asking for funding from the Army for her Child Health and Youth Lifelong Development Organization, according to the press release. Over time, that, by the way, provides services to military members and their families. And over time, she was able to get $100 million. It's disturbing because she was a thief and a con artist. But, Phil, she was able to take $100 million from the United States government. What the hell is going on here?
Well, I'm not surprised she was able to facilitate that theft, because I'll lay the blame right at the feet of whoever was supervising that particular section. And look, waste and theft in the military has gone on for decades. And, I fault when we've had problems at HPD, not regarding theft necessarily, but investigative problems within the division. It always, in my view, if you've got somebody, a subordinate, that's not doing the job properly, or maybe doing things that are questionable. I mean, where were the checks and balances for this woman? I mean, how in the world how is she just submitting this stuff, and she's just working independent of everybody else?
Well,
there's nobody above her that's having to approve what she's submitting or has to review it. And valid. So we've got such incompetent people in positions of great responsibility, and you get something like this. So this is just a bureaucracy that is run amok, and our military, and I'm talking about the bureaucracy of it, the people that are signing checks and running the business of the military, are incompetent. And how long has she been getting away with this? I guess that's my first question. How long has this been going on?
It was a bunch of years exactly. I don't know. I would have to look that up, but it was.
And my next question is, how did she get caught?
That's a great question. Let me look here. But she did use the $100 million to buy jewelry, clothing, vehicles, and she bought real estate, Phil. She was charged with 5 counts of mail fraud, 4 counts of engaging in a monetary transaction over $10,000 using criminally derived proceeds, and 1 count. It doesn't say here how she got caught. I'll find out for you. Scott Duffy, is there any wonder we have $1 trillion deficit in this country if you can just steal $100 million? By the way, the Secretary of Defense just disappeared. What's going on in this country? But Phil, Scott Duffy, does it surprise you that the debt is $1 trillion?
Is it just $1 trillion?
Yeah. No, I mean,
it seems so much higher.
The real question is, does it surprise you that someone could steal this much money? Does it surprise you someone could steal this much money from the United States Army?
No, it doesn't. And not just in military. I've seen it quite a bit in the corporate level. It comes down to a simple, Phil hit it, and I think you could say that across the board, the failure to supervise and a failure to have a checks and balance, and you let somebody run the show in any company, especially government, where there seems to be a lot of just trust that's thrown out there, and nothing to show for supervising, and so thereby that's how this happened. This was a slow, and I could bet many years. That's a lot of money. $1 million is a lot of money, and then times it by 100, it's amazing. But no, fraud like that is simply a lack of checks and balance, and then everybody in that whatever unit, whoever's in charge and working, are just minding their own business and doing nothing to help. So it's a failure on all those levels, and crime is running afoot.
Yeah, people are just checking in, checking out. Obviously, the supervisor not paying any attention, and I think she faces like 100 years in prison. And you know what? She deserves it. Joan Regan or Reagan, depending on the pronunciation. Scott, my grandchildren have a chinchilla named Chi Chi, just like you. I sent Joel his picture, and you know what? I forwarded that photo to Scott Duffy. I don't even know if you were.
Very nice to meet Chi Chi's grandmother. Right?
Yeah, there you go. Moving on to the next story. I picked quite a few. This one, Scott Duffy, this is a Minnesota poison control doctor. Guess what he did? He poisoned his wife, killed her. His search history shows he was looking up some strange things. His charges were upgraded from second to first-degree murder. He was a doctor, a young doctor, 30 years old at the Mayo Clinic, which is a very respectable institution. And his wife was a pharmacist at the hospital. Now, this is the interesting part, Scott Duffy. They had an open marriage. He apparently was with another woman, started to have feelings for her, and he also happened to be in debt. And the debt matched pretty much to the dollar her life insurance plan, and she winds up dead. Does this surprise you, Scott Duffy?
None of that you said surprises me. But you know, here we're talking about two.
Why doesn't any of this surprise you, Scott? I mean, you're in the business, but why does it not surprise you that why does this guy just, I don't know, get a second job or a divorce? Why does he have to go and poison his wife, Scott?
Yeah, why? Phil, I just always enjoyed the way Phil coins this, and every once in a while, just the way he explains how any one of us are capable with the right set of circumstances. And of course, I would add that it comes from this lack of, it's all in here, this lack of...
Scott, let me interrupt you for one moment. Yeah. COE, I am not T-Pain, has emailed the meme request. The meme queen is as fast as you are. Maybe we could put that up. I've already forgot what Phil said, but we could maybe put it up by the end of the show. Thank you. Go ahead, Scott Duffy. Did not mean to interrupt. Oh, it's been
I forgot what Phil said as well. I don't remember.
Yeah.
I as my mad cow kicks in and I don't...
I love it.
Look at this. Hey, bros, are either of you so cold that your nipples could cut diamonds? F.I. Of course, bro, but we do this for Phil Watt.
That is a classic.
My God.
We have COE. Can we collect these somewhere? We probably just lost half of our subscribers, but it might be worth it. How the meme queen does this so quickly and efficiently, I'll never know. But hey, bros, are either of you so cold that your nipples could cut diamonds? That is the line of the day from the show. No competition.
Oh, Lord.
So Phil Waters.
Starting the new year off right. There you go.
Happy 2024. This has to be the weirdest show on all of YouTube. Has to be one of them. So Phil Waters, there was this open marriage. He falls for another woman. Betty Bowman, the wife, becomes suddenly ill. She's reported to the hospital. She goes to the ER on August 2023, where she dies. He was $500,000 in debt. Her life insurance was $500,000 in debt. What he was doing, since he was, we're going to get to those poll results in one moment, since he was a doctor, he was accessing her medical records and putting stuff in, like suggesting that it was food poisoning. He was using a medication for gout called like colchicine or something. And long story short, he was using his own powers as a doctor to alter her medical records. Your thoughts? I'll just leave it open-ended.
What?
Here we go.
Say that again. What was he doing?
So he's a doctor. She is a PhD, a pharmacist. He works at the Mayo Clinic. He meets this. They're in an open marriage. He sleeps with another woman. He gets feelings for her.
Yeah.
I think in his mind, he says, if I kill her, her life insurance will clear my $500,000 debt.
No, I mean, what was he doing with her
Oh,
medical
so
records?
after searching his electronic devices, detectives like Phil Waters learned that this guy was using his medical credentials from working at a Kansas poison control center to access his wife's electronic health information during her emergency department stay for suspected food poisoning. He also accessed her information a few days after she died, reviewing the medications she was administered, her reported allergies, and operating room log. And what he did was he tweaked everything. Like, he was able to change stuff to make it look like it was some sort of food poisoning and not poisoning from the way she actually died.
Okay, so instead of using eye drops or antifreeze, he's using his ability to manipulate the prescription of medication. Is that what he's doing?
Well, he is a poison control doctor, so he was using a medication for gout. But I think the point is, he was able to go into the records and alter the medications that they, I guess, suspected that she was taking.
So that's my question. He's altering the medication that's being administered to his wife. And why is she in the hospital initially?
No, she goes there. He's able to manipulate. They have suspicions. They think she's being poisoned, and he's able to go in there and manipulate and say, no, it's not this, it's that. What the specifics are.
I'm just confused here about where does it all start? Does she go to the hospital because she's feeling bad because he's been poisoning her?
Yes.
Okay, so that's where it all starts.
Yes.
And then once she's there, he's in manipulating the medical records themselves.
Correct.
A pretty smart guy who's got a plan, you know. But to answer your initial question was, why doesn't somebody just get a divorce? I don't have any freaking idea. I'm just amazed at the number. We see these cases all the time.
Yeah.
And I'll watch the Dateline and that kind of thing. And we watched one the other night, and I just said to my wife, it's amazing to me that the as many of these types of cases that I've worked and as many of these things that I've watched, I'm just always amazed at folks that think that this is the only way out for them is to kill somebody, and to kill somebody that you assume that they once loved at some point in time. And it amazes me to this day. And when you see something like this occur, especially when it's educated people that are professionals, I mean, that have this guy's he works for the
medical
poison
doctor.
Yeah,
he's a medical doctor, and the wife is a PhD. These are no slouches.
I mean, the Hippocratic Oath is what? What does it say in there?
About something like protect and serve, but different. I don't know.
Well, protect life. That's what you're supposed to be doing.
Yes.
And now you get this guy that just does it all in reverse. And but you know what? I mean, it's all, again, it all goes back to the world we live in now. That morality and all that is relative to the person that's defining it for themselves. So there you go. Anybody's capable of any act under the right set of circumstances. And there you go.
That's the famous Phil line. And then he finishes it with it. And there you go. But that is the famous Phil line. Anybody under the right circumstances is capable of a heinous, evil act. This guy sounds like, for being as smart as he was a dumb idiot too. Twyla Olson, therapy. I've laughed, cried, prayed, and what a day. And Scott, you are so mellow. I love your grin. Yes. This is by the way, I want the rest of the world, not the United States, but anyone from outside of the United States. Do people kill their wives at this rate? Are other countries like this? I really don't understand what's going on here. I really don't. I would like to know. This is for you, Scott Duffy. Great question. What does it take to surprise an FBI agent? Like, what would surprise you, Scott?
Wow, that just There's a lot that I could read into that question. So, like, just sneak up behind me.
I mean, I don't want to get deep and sad right now, but like 9/11 had to surprise you, right? I mean, that had to shock you.
Oh,
but
okay. I thought maybe like shock and scare me.
no. Like what kind of story? What kind of crime would surprise you? What kind of crime would surprise you at this point?
I think if you asked me this in the beginning or middle, I might have an answer. I like Phil. You keep seeing it. You keep hoping somehow maybe it will change, but I guess I just expect people are just stupid. Just like, here are two highly educated individuals. They've studied everything under the sun, and this doctor still couldn't figure out how to kill his wife and get away with it because they don't know what it is. They're not.
By the way, Space Coast, what are these? I don't even know what the poll is and what are the results. You need to let us know. But Phil Waters, existential question here from Sky Ricky, friend of the show. Is money, I'll turn it into a question, is money the root of all evil, Phil Waters? It buys you Ferraris, but is it the root of all evil?
No, what the Bible says is the love of money. So we have to have money, but I think when people get it, well, and this can apply to anything, but in money in particular, once you start the love of money overrides your love or liking of anything else, then yeah, that is the root of all evil.
By the way, Phil, did I tell you I wrote a book? It is now available for pre-order. All you have to do is pick up your phone, scan this QR code. I just found out
Scott and I are getting
you're getting free signed copies. Yeah, but for my publisher, why don't you just buy a couple of copies and send them to the family? And I just found out that someone in Slovenia bought my book, and I'm thrilled about that. In all seriousness, it is the most. I've been a journalist for 27 years. It's very crazy and insane, but it is the most important story that I've ever told. And I would love for people to read it and buy it and let me know what they think. They will probably think I'm a lot more immature than I already am, but they'll probably benefit from my dear mother and the things that she has taught me in life, and they'll probably laugh. We're also going to do an audible version of this book, and there's a decent amount of expletives because my mother, when she gets worked up, which is a lot because I push her buttons, she starts to curse at me. And we're going to do an audio version, and she's going to have to repeat those curses if the book is true to form. So should be fun. But everyone, let Post Hill Press, shout out to my publisher. Let them know that we've got the best community, and we're ready. By the way, Phil, my mother, believe it or not, on Amazon, we're #1 under parenting and families, and 5 spots ahead, Carm is, of Prince Harry, but his memoir has been out for like 2 years, but she's ahead of Prince Harry. Oh, look at this. The poll's about COE. Can we see the poll, or what are the results? Probably says to get rid of me altogether. It's hard to see that. I can't even, I just took my glass off. I can't see anything. I think I literally can't see. Someone tell me what that number is.
It's everything.
Space Coast, can you chime in there on audio and tell us what that just said?
It's all yes. I rigged it. It was only yes.
Was it only yes? Okay. I thought it looked like 53. I was surprised there. Okay. So the COE might step in to host. Wrapping up and putting a bow on this story, Scott Duffy, just to show you what a dum-dum this doctor was. Days before the wife falls ill, this doctor allegedly was searching, and I quote here, how to delete Amazon history police. Also, he tried to delete police track package delivery because he was getting the poison sent. And he was also searching, quote, internet browsing history. Can it be used in court? 5 days later, he allegedly searched food versus industrial grade sodium nitrate. How could someone who is a medical doctor and studies be so dumb as to not think that their Google searches are not going to be found on their computer. Scott Duffy.
Stupidity. It's, what you've thought about it, you've fantasized about it, you have now stepped into a world that many people do not venture down to, where it's, I am going to kill somebody, period, whether I love them or not. And so now you've totally, you're just there. There are very few that actually plan, coordinate, and then think of an after plan. They're just, if it's we are our own worst enemies. And instead of him cleaning the house of all his devices and his media and throwing it out, making it disappear, and having thought to, let me get some fake accounts. No, that takes too much work. And so if criminals weren't this stupid, we would not be able to capture so many of them.
A question from Bossy Texas Chick. I hope that's not Phil's wife. She's a sweetheart. What year did Phil retire? She wants to know.
2017, December.
There you go. And this is the drug that he was poisoning her with, colchicine, I think it is. It's for gout. It's for gout. Love Scott and Phil Fridays. What a way to end the week. I'd like to stick with the poisoning theme. Phil, don't ask me. I'm just going to tell you this story. A Massachusetts woman now, Phil Waters, is being investigated for attempted murder after allegedly poisoning her husband's soup. This is according to People magazine. This gets a little crazy here. Multiple news outlets in the Massachusetts area are reporting that the alleged poisoning was tied to this woman wanting to leave her husband for a TV soap opera star. Shockingly, this TV soap opera star turned out to be a scammer. Roxanne Doucette of Townsend, Massachusetts, was in text communication with someone she believed to be Thorsten Kaye. Well, he's a star of The Bold and the Beautiful, the soap opera. So the man she thought was Thorsten Kaye said to her that I could use some money, and if you get money, I will be with you. And this woman, Roxanne Doucette, said, Self, how can I get with the soap opera star? And she said, maybe I should poison my husband's soup. And that's how we got to this point. Phil, this is very disturbing on a number of levels, but one of them is the fact that even my own dear mother, I mean, it would never get to this level, but some people are very easily duped. Senior citizens have a tendency to be scammed. But how dumb is this woman? She's getting a text message from someone to be claiming to be a star of The Bold and the Beautiful, telling her that he needs money. And she says, okay, let me kill my husband. What do you make of this, Phil?
Well, I guess that's an investment plan you can look at. And maybe that was the path of least resistance for her. That was an easy way to make a quick buck, was to dispose of him.
She told police, Scott Duffy, this is the suspected murderer, the poisoner. She said to police about this soap opera star, he wanted money and he really wanted to meet me. It was my dream to meet a soap opera star. Currently, Townsend Police and Ayer, Massachusetts Police are conducting 2 investigations. One into the alleged poisoning and another into the alleged attempted murder. She has now been ordered to stay away from her husband, who survived. Are you surprised by this one, Scott?
No, they are entertaining. They're no, but it's amazing how she went from victim to suspect all in one text. She's a victim of a romance scheme, and then she turns it into an attempt homicide. So it's it's amazing when you think about what was going on with her and this husband prior to this. I imagine this random text that was sent out to a couple million people, and the bold, what is it? The bold and the beautiful.
Bold and the Beautiful. I didn't even know that was still on the air.
Mm.
Um,
And
Scott, do
so
you
I
spend
guess
your afternoons watching soap operas on occasion with Chi-Chi, the chinchilla? Do you When was the last time you watched a soap opera?
oh, soap opera. You know, I will catch snippets with when my wife comes home. You know, she'll record them, so they do have a place in this household.
Oh, by the way, PSS keeping me straight here. Joel, he used to work at a poison control center. Then he went back to medical school and was currently in his internal medicine residency at Mayo. So thank you for that. What do I know? Why is a Mayo Clinic doctor? This is the other. I still haven't got over discovering you could poison people with Visine. Yeah, the Visine woman. I think she was convicted. Why is a Mayo Clinic doctor $500,000 in debt? Probably from medical school. That's crazy. I don't even know what to say. I'm just trying to Scott Duffy, are we going to ever get to a place where people aren't killing other people for ridiculously dumb reasons? Is it ever going to stop, or is that just the world we live in?
The end of time. It will stop. Not
Phil, do you
the
agree?
day before.
Phil, is this true? It'll never stop before the end of time. Is this true?
Oh no, it's just going to get worse. And then once Christ comes back, every knee will bow. So,
Phil, let me ask you this: on this story right here, and you had to go. Obviously, you're a professional, and you would talk to this woman who thought she was meeting a soap opera star. And I've kind of asked you this question before, but what would you and your detective partner? I mean, would you guys are you just doubled over laughing when you come out of that room, or are you very serious, like when you're in that frame of mind?
well, given the circumstances here, I mean, after it's over, you've had the interview and hopefully rendered a confession from her, and yeah, this would be one of these dark humor moments, certainly. Like how stupid can you be? So, and then you just, stupid is as stupid does. So you just go from one degree of stupidity to the next. And it's all based on the ego and the desires of the flesh. And she wants what she wants. And the only way she thinks she's going to get it is she buys off into the false narrative, and then she has to get there. And the only way she can get there is to kill her husband. So, I mean, again, no respect for life. It's all about feeding the ego. And there you go. Sex, drugs, or money. That's why people kill.
There you go. Aren't trials in true crime like real life soap operas? Truth is stranger than fiction, as they say. I would have to agree with that. This next one is a serious story, but kind of puzzling. Curious to get your guys' take. Scott Duffy, this happened in Leesburg, Florida, which I'm not sure where that is, to be honest. A woman is now suing Lyft, as in the rideshare company. And I'm curious also to get your guys' advice to a lot of the women. We are predominantly a woman-based community. So I want to hear what you have to say to them about being safe when getting in an Uber. Let's start right there, Scott. If a woman is calling an Uber or a Lyft tonight, how do you maintain I'm already nervous about this, and my daughter's 9, but there's going to come a day. We live in a new world. A strange man. It used to be a cab driver. Now it's an Uber driver, a Lyft driver. What would you tell your daughter, Scott, to be safe before getting into a car with a person?
So there on the back of our church bulletin, where we have members of the community and whatnot, businesses having ads and marketing and whatnot. There is a each week. It's Say My Name. And that is and I forget the victim's name, but it was a college student. I think it was somewhere in the Northeast where she got in mistakenly into of random acts. Here is a killer in wait, and it just so happens a woman who had ordered up, I believe it was whatever the car service, and she gets into the car, and then she meets her fate. She is murdered. As a result of that, there was a campaign, Say My Name. And and that's very important. In other words, when you order up a car service, you know exactly what you're getting, the make, the model, the car, the name of the person. That person should also know exactly everything that is provided to them, right? And so go that extra step. A car shows up and it's like, okay, is this the car? And then open up the back of the car or whatever and say, what's my name? Put it on them. And just that little, tidbit, because that random killer had no clue that somebody would actually get into his car thinking that's the car service that was ordered. So Say My Name is a very simple, that would be a very, that it goes a long way. Make sure that the car that's coming to you is the car that is ordered. Now that's, now you're getting into something that's a whole different ball game. It's just all a matter of be very aware of your surroundings. But that is the first, and I imagine all these services do a lot to do backgrounds, to do as best as they can to mitigate horrific incidents.
And this one we're going to talk about in a second is a horrific incident. My daughter has her location shared. That's interesting. I would have no idea how to do that, but I guess my daughter would be able to tell me how to do that with me and often calls me from the Uber. So Phil Waters. So this woman hops in an Uber. She's filed a lawsuit in the state of California because and in Lyft. I'm sorry, not Uber, but a Lyft. And she files suit following a 2019 incident involving a woman named Tabitha. I'm not going to, and an unnamed, it's funny, they name the woman, but they don't name the Lyft driver. So he apparently, Phil Waters, follows her into her home. She's intoxicated and he attacks her and rapes her. And she actually becomes pregnant and has the child. Lyft puts out the following statement. They look like crap here. They say safety is fundamental to Lyft, and the behavior described the behavior, rape we're talking about, has no place in our society. The alleged incident from 2019 did not take place on the Lyft platform while using the Lyft app, but rather involved a separate trip arranged between the individuals involved. Lyft has worked to design policies and features that protect both drivers. It goes on and on and on. The details of the complaint, it says she requested a ride through the Lyft app back to where she was staying after a night out of drinking. She said the driver told her to sit in the front seat and during the ride and began making inappropriate comments that made her uncomfortable. When they arrived at the destination, the driver parked and begins to touch Ms. Means inappropriately. While she rejected his advances, he decides to get out of the car. The driver allegedly follows her into her home where she was repeatedly raped and forced to engage in oral sex. The complainant claims she begged the driver to stop, and at one point he allegedly responds, and I quote here, "It will be just fine and over before you know it." The baby, hard to believe, she had a baby. It was born at 33 weeks. It had to be in the ICU, the NICU. She needed a C-section. There was a DNA test taken, Phil, and it matches the Lyft driver 99.9 with a million nines after percent. So it is this Lyft driver. And then Lyft says, well, no police report was ever filed. What say you, Phil Waters?
That was going to be my first question. Was he prosecuted criminally?
No. There was no police report ever filed.
And this will really get him going, what I'm about to say. But I'm going to tell you, there's always a backstory to these kinds of accusations. and I did see this story, and that she had decided to keep the baby, and so which is that part of it's commendable on her part. I understand what's been described in this petition that they are using to file the lawsuit, but I can tell you that I work liability cases like this on the civil side, and I'm brought in as an expert to examine the circumstance and look at all the factors that surrounded whatever the event may be. And then I come up with an opinion on whether or not that particular business had the ability to foresee something like this happening. And were they negligent to some degree that allowed something like this to happen? And these petitions, I'm telling you that these plaintiffs' attorneys submit, they some of them come right out of dime novels. I mean, some of the stuff that I read, and I always read the petition first before I ever get any of the discovery. And it is amazing the way things are worded in a petition. And then when you start to get the discovery, when you start to get the reports, law enforcement involvement, their reports, and get into the deep part of the investigation, because I enter all of them the same way that I entered all my homicide investigations. I'm always open-minded. I'm objective. I let evidence lead me where I need to be. I don't take it someplace I want it to go, and it's always a journey for the truth. I'm not a hired gun that you'll just come in and I'll just say what you're paying me to say. And I'm straightforward with the attorneys that I work for and telling them that. And I've not had one tell me that they don't appreciate that approach. They don't want to hear. Sorry about that. They don't want to hear just what they want to hear. So my point is here, look, I can tell you that in this particular case, you've read the petition, you've read the accusations, you've read the lawsuit, so forth and so on. I'm just going to tell you that what is in that petition, there may be some facts in there, but they're not telling the truth. So other than that, I'm not going to pass judgment either way, but I would just say that this is another one of these cases where just because somebody is saying something and they have a tangible result of what they're accusing this person of doing, a baby, that the circumstances under which that occurred, especially if there's been no criminal case brought forth in this thing, then I think there's some questions here that need to be answered regarding the plaintiff's allegations in this lawsuit.
Scott Duffy, is there a situation where she could have been so, obviously this kind of attack can be really traumatizing. Is there a possibility she was too traumatized to ever report it? Does that happen too?
I would say the short answer is yes, absolutely. Whatever it is, somebody's background, embarrassment, just so much in the can absolutely cause somebody to pause and say, do I want to, and try to look down the road of being, ridiculed and whatnot. Absolutely. That's so totally understand a victim being very cautious in some regards. But I would agree in what Phil's, there's a lot that has to be asked. And just like if we were responding as law enforcement to a complaint, you follow the facts, you interview, and you go exactly where the case is going to take you, the evidence and so forth. So there's a lot of unknown here, and so thereby I'd be very suspect. But can the questions that were never answered many, many months prior to, and I don't know, like, when is the suit actually filed? Is it filed relatively soon after the child is born, or are we talking maybe considerable amount of time after, where this is now first entering into a court, civil as opposed to criminal? I'd like to know, what their connections are, like how many times have they communicated, all those things that would just naturally, any natural, reasonable person would ask, hey, what are the prior communications? Was there a relationship that now all of a sudden went further south? Was there a commitment to pay money that felt fallen short? All those things need to be answered as a result of unfortunately not a criminal case being brought forth.
We'll end with a really horrible story, feel good, horrible Friday story, just because that's what happens to be my final story. Shout out to Andy's school, by the way, Peony Pink, Copper Horse doing an amazing job. I'm not T-Pain, the queen of meme. I'm just rolling through. Bossy Texas chick, misdemeanor OG, who is truly an OG with STS. Yala, Dwayne Harris out of Detroit. Love to have him. Moto 88, Lori, Gen X Granny, another awesome mod. Tiff Knox, another old school friend of the show. This final story, I do not say alls, but I do say go ahead and woulda. And it's a hoagie. There we go. There you go. There, you learn something new every day. Philadelphia is a weird language, man. Gigi, Pretty Alibis, Lies and Alibis, one of my good friends, posted that she has received Donna's jail. Ooh, should be interesting. That's wild. Good to know. I will have to talk to Gigi on that, but pay attention to Pretty Lies and Alibis. Look at Ned Smith. Fastest 100 minutes on YouTube, no doubt about that. Dave Lincoln coming to us from Cape Cod. Final story here, talking about the de-evolution of society, how our world is falling apart. This will give you no hope. Good way to leave the week. A 41-year-old Ohio mom has been charged with theft by deception after allegedly faking that her 7-year-old daughter has cancer, Phil Waters. According to a statement from Noble County Sheriff's Office, Pamela Reed has been publicly portraying her daughter to be fighting cancer. Several local organizations in Ohio participated in fundraising efforts. They made monetary contributions to help the family offset medical expenses. One organization in particular specifically donated $8,000 for cancer treatment expenses. This woman now has her bond set at $50,000, charged with theft, deception. There was even a Facebook page called Our Ray, R-A-E, Our Ray of Sunshine, Team Addie Ray, that was collecting a ton of money. Phil Waters, what sort of desperation or twisted mind, someone, Julia here, saying Munchausen by proxy, what sort of twisted mind does it take for a mother to tell the world their child has cancer when they don't have cancer and try to raise money off of it?
Well, that's just their particular, again, it's self-indulgence, self-absorbed, self-centered. They obviously, money, their love of money is their motivation, and they're going to use any particular plan they can to put in place to garner a bunch of money. I mean, that's all motivated by money, and they have no hesitation in deciding that the best way they can do that, to facilitate that, is to use their child. And that's just abhorrent.
By the way, not to interrupt, but this is big breaking news. I saw it happening in the chat. I have personally not confirmed it, but I will take everyone's word, obviously. John Pryor, who is Chad Daybell in the Lori Vallow case, has withdrawn as his lawyer. It's crazy because I saw also, and I believe it to be true, Gigi reporting it. Gigi has done over 50 podcasts on this case. She knows it inside out. But apparently Chad Daybell's attorney, and he is facing a possible death penalty. He has withdrawn. He was at every day of the Lori Vallow case. Phil, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Back to twisted parenting and these twisted minds. Do you think, Phil, it is a financial motivation, or do you think it's just a sick mind, or both?
Oh, I think it's a combination of both. And again, we're in a state where the value of life at whatever stage, in the womb, as an elderly person, as a child, I mean, there's no respect for it. And if you're the type of person that is going to be trying to make a living off of using other people, whoever they may be, and in a nefarious way and an illegal way, and when you're using children in an evil way, then you're a person that is void of any kind of moral grounding in any way, shape, or form. And it's all about you. It's all about gratification. And those types of people, to use this as an example, are never satisfied. They're never satiated. They have to keep perpetuating the lie to be continually satisfied with the result. And in this particular case, it's money. So we use our child to do this thing. It's like that. What was that other case we were talking about where she just got let out of prison after doing 10 years for murdering her mother?
Gypsy Rose. And by the way, guess what she's doing now? She's doing podcasts, and Steve
Of course
Cohen.
she is. So
Yeah.
she'll make money off of murdering her mother. And we can get off into that stuff. And I did what I said I would do, by the way. I did the research on her. I looked at all the stuff there's all sorts of stuff out there about her. The bottom line is she took a kid that was autistic on the autism scale and convinced him to murder her mother for her own purposes. So she should be in prison still, in my opinion.
By the way, this is an interesting this is an interesting distinction from PSS in Philly. It's only, this is true, I believe, it's only Munchausen by proxy, now called fictitious disorder imposed upon another. Man, what do they come up with this? If there was physical harm or illness imposed on the dependent person, whether child or adult. In this case, I don't think she physically harmed her like they did with Gypsy Rose, but they were using her. So I guess technically it would not be Munchausen by proxy. Who are the people that go to work and say,
well,
okay,
that's still harming the child. You can call it whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, mentally, you're
these when they come up with these, well, now they're not even calling UFOs anymore, right? They're calling them what?
UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomenon.
What is that supposed to mean? I mean, you get somebody that comes up and we're going to call it this now, and they write a book. I mean, it's asinine to me the way we just complicate terminology. But anyway,
who goes to work? This is my question. Who goes to work and says, today I'm going to change the name, the wording of Munchausen by proxy to fictitious disorder opposed? Whose job is that to do this? These are the questions.
Somebody is going to write a book and say they did this, and then everybody jumps on it. It's just it's funny to me. I think it's a waste of time. But maybe it makes people feel better. Maybe they don't want to. Maybe they don't want to be judgmental of Munchausen. I mean, maybe there's a real consideration here, but I doubt it.
L. Deb, it might have to do with coffee. It could just be that I'm a moron. Not to interrupt, she's talking about me, but I will for the 100th. There's probably a lot more than that. And in fairness to me, I've been going for 20 hours podcasting, and I'm out of my mind. I'm actually thinking of taking, believe it or not, a 3-day weekend here. Although now that we've got Donna Adelson jailhouse calls, we'll see. I'll have to talk to the COE. They're saying the reason John Pryor just backed out is, look at that, he's out of money. He's out of money. Let's get back. Look at this. Ned Smith bringing us back to where we need to be. Bill Waters, do you care who wins, the Miami Dolphins or the Kansas City Chiefs? Do you care either way?
I don't know that I would say I care. I do like Kansas City. Kansas City, just a little inside football stuff. I think people may not know that the original Dallas team were the Texans, the Dallas Texans, and they later became the Kansas City Chiefs. So I have a little affection for the Kansas City Chiefs anyway. So I'm rooting for the Kansas City Chiefs.
And look at this, Space Coast on the West Coast, the COE's brother, my brother-in-law, go Niners.
Oh,
Huge
now
Niners
see,
fan.
that's a sacrilege right there. So I'm a Cowboy guy, and you know, the Niners are just hated enemies of the Cowboys. But ever since the catch.
Dwayne, you got a chance this year. The Lions, one of my best friends from Ann Arbor, as you know, the Dolphins rhymes with muck from a native Floridian. I'm rooting for KC. How dare you, you infidel? Scott Duffy, what's going on with your Philadelphia Eagles?
Yeah, what's going on with them? What is going on with them?
Yeah, are they going to win this
patch there, man?
Yeah. What's happening to this Jalen Hurts guy? What's going on?
Got to take care of that finger. They'll be all right.
Space Coast, I grew up on those early 90s games. What a rivalry. What a rivalry. Dallas and the 49ers. So we are at the point of the night where we're getting to the end. Look at this. The name was, look at all the information we get here. The name was changed because it actually describes a clinical disorder. I guess that's sort of, look at PSS is
full of
shoulder,
knowledge.
full of knowledge, but she's an MD.
But I would agree in the point that I think that case is more of a fraud. That's straight up, could care less, take the money and run.
Whose new logo is horrendous and looks like a sperm? Oh, the Dolphins? Is that what you're saying? I guess so. Looks like a sperm whale. Phil Waters. What's now? I'm all flustered, but real quickly. So in Hawaii, we knew that I think Friday night was pizza night, or Friday night was Bible study. Saturday was pizza night. How did things change in Houston? What is tonight's plan?
Friday night are hamburgers on the grill night.
On your grill, I imagine.
Yes, on my personal grill, which I just went and got a new grill. So yeah.
And what kind of grill, Phil? Because whatever a Texas guy is buying,
3-burner little charbroil grill, but it's I just got it, and I had to get rid of my other one, and it was used up, and so yeah, tonight will be the first night breaking in the new grill for hamburger night at the Waters house.
That's amazing. Scott Duffy, how about yourself? You sometimes go to the watering hole on a Friday night. By the way, describe the weather in Philadelphia for me right now, just so I can get a sick, twisted pleasure from hearing about it.
You know, it didn't. I want to say it's 40s. It's supposed to. The rain's supposed to come in. They're calling for another inch or two. We had 5. We were in that bubble where it was anywhere from 1 to 5. We were up close to it. So we've had a lot of rain. Anytime the skies open up, it's walking through puddles in my yard.
I'm literally going to have a scotch tonight, and I'm going to take a photo, and I'm going to post it on Instagram at Surviving the Survivor. And I will probably post I Am Not T-Pain's meme. Phil, please adopt me. Let's just look at this meme one more time. Hey, bros, are either of you so cold that your nipples could cut diamonds? FIL across the chest. Of course, bro, but we do this for Phil.
All these would look great. Everything that's been coming in the last couple of months, throw them all on mug. STS Nation.
Scott Duffy, have I told you that I've written a book? Have you heard that?
No.
I've written a book.
Hold on. Let me get that QR code.
Yeah. Please. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Show them how it's done. You didn't read
I'm waiting for my free copy.
You'll get a free copy, Phil Waters. Trust me, you will. Someone's saying go 49ers. So anyway, the COE and I just forgot where the camera. I almost just passed out in front of everyone. I'm so disoriented. Long story short, next week we're getting back into the Michelle Troconis trial, but there is no court on Monday, but of course now I'm getting word that Donna Adelson's phone calls are out there. I'm inclined to do the 3-day weekend, but I will let you know for sure at Podcast STS, Instagram at Surviving the Survivor. Until next week, love you, America. I'm going to now read off all the places that tuned in today.
Hang on just 1 second.
Yes, Bill. Oh, I didn't get closing thoughts.
Anybody, but let me interrupt you today.
I didn't even get closing thoughts. Go ahead, Phil.
Okay. We are about to get hit in Texas with a cold snap down into the teens, which is a big deal here.
And, I remember the ice storm was crazy a couple years ago. Go ahead, Phil. I interrupted.
So I'm just telling everybody in Texas that's going to, get out there and get your pipes wrapped up and take your hose off your hose bibs and get the doors open under the sinks and the trickle thing and all that good stuff, and get prepared for this, because it's going to be one of those freeze deals for a couple of days. And stay warm. And let's hope that ERCOT got their act together this year and we don't have blackouts. And there were some folks on here in the comments that were asking, where in the Bible does it talk about the love of money being the root of all kinds of evils? And it's in 1 Timothy 6, 9 through 11. So you can take a look at that, and you can get the whole scope of what that verse says. Other than that, I hope everybody keeps warm, and Happy New Year to everyone.
If Phil was not a police officer, one of the finest, he would have been a teacher, no doubt, or a pastor. Never too late. He might still do both. Until Monday, we love you, America. Here are some of the most exotic places from the day. Love you, New Jersey. Love you, Pennsylvania. Love you, Houston, Texas. But then we go South Africa, Finland, Kenya, New Zealand, the North Pole, where Santa Claus lives, which is hard for me to believe. I'm a little skeptical of that one. Person claimed it was true. Costa Rica, Brazil, Ireland, Scotland, England, Gander, Newfoundland, Canada, Brussels, Belgium, Australia, Norway, Spain. What a world we live in, that we can all share our lives together. Love you, America. Till next time, I'm Delirious.
Adios.